Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of Wright Virtual Visits. My name is Eric Rogers, and I am the Manager of Digital Engagement and Communications at the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy. I'm coming to you live from our offices in downtown Chicago, Illinois. If you're tuning in and watching us live on Facebook, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Drop a note and let us know where you are watching from, and you might see yourself pop up on screen during the show. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge my partners in this continuing effort of Wright Virtual Visits, in particular Anna Kaplan of Graycliff and Elisha Marine, a design professional who's very active in preservation in Mason City, Iowa, and our wonderful and very patient video producer, Allison Grant of ACG Productions, who have really helped us up our game with Wright Virtual Visits and keep this series running. In addition to letting us know in the comments where you're watching from, you can put questions there at any time during the show, and we'll keep an eye on those. We might actually answer them directly on Facebook, or we do have some time for Q&A at the end of the program, and we'll get to some of those questions when we can. So this is our annual celebration of Frank Lloyd Wright on the World Heritage List. And this is something that we've done in Wright Virtual Visits every year for a few years now. And we decided that we wanted to do something different. But before I get into what we're actually doing today, I realize that there's a chance that maybe some of you are new to the whole idea of the World Heritage List, and just wanted to briefly explain what that is. So we've got a slide, if we could put it up, that actually shows you there are 8 sites that are together as what is considered a single site, inscribed as the 20th century architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright. And these were added to the very prestigious World Heritage List in 2019. And that was the culmination of a 15-year effort that the Conservancy led, together with a huge number of partners all across the country. And Frank Lloyd Wright is the only modern American architect who is recognized with inclusion on the World Heritage List, which we think is hugely significant because that list recognizes the planet's most exceptional and irreplaceable cultural treasures. And of course, that's what we all think Frank Lloyd Wright's work is. Very quickly, just to remind you, the 8 sites that were included, and these were selected to span 50 years of Wright's career, and in the view of the experts who are the keepers of this list, they best exemplify Wright's artistic genius and his contribution to modern architecture. Those sites are Unity Temple, which was constructed 1906 to 09 in Oak Park, Illinois, the Frederick C. Roby House on the south side of Chicago, built in 1910, Taliesin, constructed over a long period of time from 1911 to 1959 in Spring Green, Wisconsin, Hollyhock House, constructed from 1918 to 1921 in Los Angeles, Falling Water, constructed 1936 to 39 in Mill Run, Pennsylvania, the Herbert and Catherine Jacobs House, the first of 2 that Wright designed for them, constructed in 1936 to 7 in Madison, Wisconsin, Taliesin West, begun in 1938 in Scottsdale, Arizona, and the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum in Manhattan, constructed 1956 to 1959. So you can pull down the slide now, but that's the full set of 8 that together are the 20th century architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright on the World Heritage List. When we've celebrated the anniversary of this inscription, which was made in July of 2019 in the past, we've looked at all of the sites and invited representatives of all of them to share. But we decided that we wanted to go a little more in depth on a couple of them that have a really deep personal connection to Wright. And we actually have a unique opportunity to do that through the eyes of someone who is new to the Frank Lloyd Wright community. So I'm really excited that the format of our program today will actually be a conversation with Joseph Spector, who is the newly appointed CEO and president of the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. Joe, do you want to join me on screen now?
Hey, good morning. How are you? Good afternoon, I should say.
Well, technically afternoon here by 5 minutes, but I think it's still morning in Arizona, right?
It sure is, yes. A beautiful, sunny, hot Scottsdale, Arizona.
Always hot and sunny at this time of year. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so grateful to be here and spend a little time with you and the folks here on the stream.
Well, we're really excited for this conversation, and we'll just dive right in. So before we really talk about the sites, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to this audience?
Sure, I really appreciate that. So I guess if there's a through line in my life, it's that I've always been drawn to the idea of being involved in activities that would open people's hearts to something that's new. But once they've experienced that, hopefully, their lives might be shifted in a positive way, forever moving forward. And I know that's a big idea, but it really is the thing that's carried me through my professional and personal life. It's the idea that first drew me to opera. I was a professional opera singer for 8 years. I ran opera companies for 13 years. I was for 2 seasons the director of institutional relations at the Metropolitan Opera. And through all of that, this idea of this art form that people hadn't connected with en masse, but that I might be able to play some sort of small role to bring them a little bit closer and hopefully bring something special to their lives that they didn't expect. That was really a powerful idea that I've carried with me the whole way through, and including into this new position with the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. Because although inside the world of Frank Lloyd Wright, he is a titan, and his ideas are not only transformational, but enduring over this incredible period of time. Just looking at that list of World Heritage Sites, that spans a 50-year period of creative life. How many people can claim that type of evolution over time? But as magnificent as Frank Lloyd Wright's contributions have been, not just to the architectural world, but to the world at large, there are still a lot of people who haven't ever connected deeply with that world. And so, I see my role and in this through line of my life as an opportunity to help bridge that gap between our mission here at the foundation and the world of Frank Lloyd Wright, and hopefully people who have never had the chance to experience or be moved by his work before. And then I would say my true north for all of that is my family, my wife Kate, my 2 daughters, Sophie and Charlotte. And I know it sounds, again, maybe a little bit Pollyanna, but being in mission-driven work for almost all of my professional life, I really do think about the idea of how can I leave the world a little bit better than I found it, and in some sense that connects so deeply with the idea of organic architecture.
Well, really, just the opportunity to preserve these places so that people can experience them and have that really transformational moment where you walk into one of these incredible places.
The moments happen. They really do happen.
So how long have you been at the foundation, and how are you getting settled in?
I've been at the foundation, well, I guess it's 3 months yesterday, which is, a pretty short period of time. It's moved quickly, but in such a positive way. And, I'll say that, coming from outside of the world of architecture, of Frank Lloyd Wright, prior to this, at least in terms of my professional roles, one of the things that I thought a lot about was, okay, I'm here to do the most good that I possibly can, but in some sense, I'm coming from outside of the space. And one of the things that's been so encouraging to me has been the degree of welcome that I've experienced from people in Wright World, in the world of architecture, because you have folks that have dedicated their entire lives to this study with incredible scholarship and passion. And I would say both within the organization here, among our board, among our staff, the community, and community, I say kind of broadly, it doesn't just apply to Scottsdale, Arizona, or even Spring Green, Wisconsin. When I've met people throughout this space, it's been a warm welcome. And so, there's just so much that's possible in terms of advancing mission when you have that kind of support. And I'm just looking forward to doing, my part to elevate our mission, our organization, and do the most good that I possibly can, and growing within that process as we move forward.
Well, you've talked about kind of the through line in your career, but I'm curious, what really enticed you to make the move from opera to the world of Frank Lloyd Wright?
Yeah. Well, that idea of contribution and impact is, as you maybe sense by now, like really, really big for me. And I hit this inflection point in my life last year. I had just turned 50. My daughters both hit major age milestones. I hit my 20th anniversary with my wife, Kate, and it felt like this big inflection point. And I was starting to assess, even though I committed so much of my life to opera, I was thinking this is a moment where I'm ready for a new challenge. And what was kind of pulling me forward was this idea of where can I move into a space that's different, that's going to present new challenges and adventures, but where the things that I had developed over the course of my life and my career could be a maximal contribution. And I was kind of amazing. I living in Arizona, where I ran Arizona Opera for the 9 years prior to this role. I this was still the only role in the whole state of Arizona that I even considered, and I did have some background with the foundation. We had produced an opera called Shining Brow, which was composed and premiered in Wisconsin in the 90s. But we had a version of that opera commissioned for Arizona Opera that we premiered in 2019. So I had some contact with the foundation already, and I think, given the international reach of Frank Lloyd Wright and his work and his legacy, that idea of a bigger platform where I could take this toolkit of nonprofit leadership and apply it on this world stage, that was probably what enticed me the most, combined with just the unbelievable focus on human beings and quality of life and sustainability and all these elements. It just really spoke to me.
So we're here to talk about World Heritage, which maybe was a little bit of a new strand to your experience.
Absolutely.
As someone who's coming into this new and now in part responsible for stewarding two pieces of a World Heritage site, what does it mean to you?
Well, I think that just going back to that idea of international impact, the idea of architectural and cultural significance that transcends a national barrier, that's the biggest thing. Frank Lloyd Wright is both distinctly American, but his influences both to his work and the impact that we could have over time as an organization. I think it's about transcending one country and reaching the world. I think it affirms the importance of organic architecture, in both the realized and potential impact in our lives. And very importantly, it's a commitment on behalf of the organization and the two properties, the two campuses that we steward, to conserving those buildings, those places, in a very thoughtful manner, with authenticity and that sense of stewardship, as you mentioned before, for future generations. It's a way to pay it forward, and then thinking in that direction, thinking about posterity. How are we positively impacting future generations? It's that kind of constellation of ideas.
So part of what we like to do in Wright Virtual Visits, of course, is give people a taste of the sites that we're featuring and talking about, in part so that hopefully they're motivated to plan their own in-person visits. So we want to talk about the two sites that the foundation stewards or co-stewards. So why don't you tell us, from your perspective, what a little bit of an orientation to Taliesin and Taliesin West.
Yeah, fantastic. So as you mentioned, Taliesin and Taliesin West are the two properties that are stewarded by the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. Taliesin is located in Spring Green, Wisconsin, which is Wisconsin's called the driftless region. It's on about 800 acres of land, and it was Wright's home and studio and really a laboratory for organic architecture for about 50 years. It was built in the valley of Frank Lloyd Wright's childhood home. And I think looking at it here, I mean, pictures are just it's hard to it's hard to capture the profound experience of these places in pictures. That's a beautiful photo, though. But these are living demonstrations of Frank Lloyd Wright's commitment to building in harmony with nature. Really, I think one of our colleagues, Dr. Jen Gray, calls Taliesin the mothership of organic architecture. So in 1932, Frank Lloyd Wright and his wife Olga Ivana founded the Taliesin Fellowship, which many people I'm sure listening today know about already. But that was an immersive learning community that helped shape future generations of architects, which we experience even today. And again, and this is going to that idea of world heritage, this isn't just a historic home. This is a living testament to Wright's philosophy about how we live life. So Taliesin West, that's nestled in the McDowell Mountains in Scottsdale, Arizona. This was established in 1937. The building started to be constructed, I believe, as you mentioned, in 1938. We're in the Sonoran Desert, and you're looking at the prow. These are two different photos of the prow of Taliesin West, and you can see how different this structure is from Taliesin, but both authentic expressions of organic architecture in the sense that both buildings feel like they are of the place that they were built. In the case of Taliesin West, you sense this kind of raw beauty of the desert. There's this technique of desert masonry that you can see throughout these photos, where the rock and the sand that's on the property was used to build these walls that, in a lot of ways, define the look and feel of the property. Along with the canvas roofs, you see these redwood beams, these big open air spaces. Even though this property looks so different than Taliesin, they are both authentic expressions of that idea of organic architecture. The site feels unmistakably rugged. It feels futuristic and ancient all at the same time. And again, a testament to that spirit of experimenting that was so endemic, not just to Frank Lloyd Wright, but to the fellowship. The site evolved over a period of time. There are gardens, there are theaters, there's a drafting studio. You saw both drafting studios for Taliesin and Taliesin West, different manifestations of that same idea. And this is where so much of Wright's late work was created.
Well, you've certainly got me excited to visit Taliesin West, which I have not yet had.
Oh, we have to have you. Don't come down in July, though. It's my recommendation to you.
I'll wait until the winter months. But I'm wondering, sort of in your view, what makes Taliesin and Taliesin West special among World Heritage sites? And can you talk a little bit about the connection between the two?
Yeah, well, Taliesin and Taliesin West were both unique among these properties, Wright's actual homes. And I think in the sense that they were the place where experimentation was happening. I mean, he experimented constantly, even on properties that weren't his home. But I think that these were special laboratories in the sense they're places he occupied for extended periods of time, where a lot of the creativity was happening, and in collaboration with the fellowship. With Taliesin, again, these homes look so incredibly different. It was originally built in 1911, and through tragedies that are well publicized, was rebuilt several times. And he didn't just rebuild it the same way that it was initially. He, even in the recreation of Taliesin, there was experimentation happening. And Taliesin West, very much the same thing, that came along in the late 1930s. And again, I'm sure a lot of your viewers are familiar with this, but Frank Lloyd Wright and the Fellowship were essentially snowbirds, traveling between, we say snowbirds a lot down here, Taliesin and Taliesin West. So during the wintertime, the Fellowship was down here in the summertime in Taliesin. And even that concept of that, kind of caravan process between the two properties and what must have been just incredible, kind of magical bonding time. I think those do set these two properties in a specific place with regard to the World Heritage sites.
I'm sure that somewhere the process of how they moved back and forth has been documented, and I'd love to read more about that at some point.
Yeah, a lot of great photographs of baked beans being cooked on the back of a of a car. I mean, just amazing. I think one of the things that people get drawn in by when they're thinking whether they're from the world of architecture or Frank Lloyd Wright is what that kind of bohemian life really looked like, because it was very specific and obviously compelling and magical. Unique among any arts organization, arts and culture organization, or movement, really, I guess.
Yeah. Well, a little bit of a throwback to how we've approached Wright virtual visits in the past. I'm going to put a challenge to you to talk about two spaces that you feel really help us understand both the similarities and the differences.
Yeah,
Taliesin
sure.
Taliesin West.
Yeah, thank you for this one. And when we were talking about getting together today and thinking about what spaces we might explore, I can't help but be drawn to these particular two places as a former stage performer, the Hillside Theater in Taliesin and the Cabaret Theater at Taliesin West. These are such emotionally evocative places for me, coming from my specific background. But as it pertains to organic architecture, it's both shocking and amazing, and at the same time completely resonant. It makes complete sense that these two spaces would have evolved from the same thought process, the same kind of genius. The Hillside Theater at Taliesin has this. It's kind of a combination of a proscenium theater and a thrust theater. Proscenium being what you consider that kind of arch shape above a stage, and a thrust theater being a stage that comes out into the audience, like a theater almost in the round. And he combined those two ideas to create what is both a traditional and completely imaginative experience in terms of the Hillside Theater at Taliesin. The Cabaret Theater at Taliesin West, again, I mean, it just feels like it came out of the rock itself. Wonderful acoustics, I would say, in both spaces, which I've had the pleasure of being in. And I think Taliesin West, the cabaret there, it's just a magical space. It glows. I hope that your viewers have a chance to visit both of these places and experience how they're both incredibly similar and incredibly different.
Well, it wouldn't be an event hosted by someone from the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy if we didn't talk about preservation projects a little
Absolutely.
bit. And I know that the Hillside Theater has actually undergone a lot of work recently. But can you talk about some of the major preservation challenges that you're grappling with at the foundation?
Yes, thank you for that. And the preservation is so important to us because caring for these spaces properly means preserving these estates for generations to come, so that they can experience that emotional connection for themselves. Again, it's hard to communicate in pictures. In terms of our current view on preservation, I would say that we're trying to over a period of time focus a little bit more on Taliesin. There's some significant work that needs to be done on the south wing, which you see here. This consists of Wright's bedroom and the garden terrace. That's in the main residence at Taliesin. We have a lot of work to do there. There's also significant work ahead at Midway Barn, which you can see there. A lot of work to do in Midway Barn. And then even at Hillside Theater, where some terrific work was recently completed, there's still quite a bit to do there. So I would say that even though there certainly are projects for us to take on at Taliesin West. That Taliesin is, I think needs and deserves a little bit of extra love in this moment in time as a way to, continue carrying forward Wright's vision and making sure that we can deliver on our mission.
Well, in that vein, I know that you recently announced some pretty big news about funding for that work at Taliesin.
Yes, we're so thrilled that in partnership with our colleagues at Taliesin Preservation or TPI in Spring Green, Wisconsin, that the state of Wisconsin has announced a grant of $5 million to help support preservation activities as well as visitor experience at Taliesin. It's an incredibly generous gesture by the state, and it represents some incredible work by our colleagues at TPI to secure those funds. And even though that amount of money doesn't cover the entire need, it's such an inspiration to see public support in that level, so that we can start achieving projects such as the ones at South Wing and Hillside, as well as the Midway Barn. So that love is coming, and we're committed to, through the inspiration that's possible through these places and through our programming to get all the way to where we need to go for achieving those preservation needs.
Feeding of all the complex buildings at Taliesin and Taliesin West. Can you talk a little bit about what your vision is for the direction of the foundation over the next few years?
Yes, thank you for that. So we're as you might imagine, with a new leadership in place, we're right in the middle of thinking about all of that strategy right now. First, as I was kind of indicating in the preservation space before, we're trying to balance the organization's focus a little bit more between Taliesin and Taliesin West. I think that partly because we're primarily headquartered in Scottsdale, that's left opportunity for us to maybe grow a little bit more in our focus on Wisconsin moving forward. And connected with that is doubling down on the idea of values-based preservation, which is about not only preserving the spaces physically, but making sure that we're honoring rights principles in meaningful ways. And then, I think to make all of that possible, the foundation really needs to become a greater partner, a greater collaborator with increasing numbers of both individuals and institutions in ways that are genuinely impactful in people's lives. We want to be a civic institution worthy of that label. And for us, that means we have to really be delivering our mission, not just on these two campuses, but beyond. And all of it through the lens of Wright's legacy, of organic architecture, and of carrying those things into a contemporary life in a way that will bring real value and meaning to others.
Well, the foundation has certainly been a valued partner to the Conservancy for many years, so we look forward to that continuing.
As are we.
As we start to wrap up, want to ask you, so of the 8 sites included in the World Heritage Inscription, which ones have you seen? And if you haven't seen them all, which ones are you excited to visit?
Well, let me say, I come to Taliesin West every day, and I'm excited every day approaching this place. It really is, it's like nothing else. So, just to reiterate our invitation, maybe we'll do one of these live streams from down here sometime. So obviously Taliesin West, I've been to Taliesin, been to the Guggenheim, of course, and both of the Jacobs houses, although Jacobs 2 is not on the World Heritage list. But really happy that I had a chance to visit both of those places. I've seen Roby House, but I haven't taken a tour there yet, so I'm excited about that. I'll have a chance to visit Unity Temple later this month, or actually we're at the end of July. So in a few weeks when we're up in Chicago for our next board meeting. And then in mid-September, I'm planning on getting out to Hollyhock House. But I can't help but be enthralled with the idea of Falling Water, which will be last in my world tour of heritage sites, also in September. So by the end of September, I will have been to all 8 of the sites.
Well, that's a pretty good whirlwind tour, and we're looking forward to having you join us at Falling Water, where the Conservancy's annual conference will be taking place.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I'll try not to make too much trouble.
Well, we'll be watching you carefully during our dinner reception there.
Caution is the better part of valor, Eric. I agree.
So if anybody's been holding on to any questions that you want to drop, make sure to do that here. We've got a couple of minutes for Q&A. There was one question I meant to ask you when we first got started, and I neglected to do that. You're obviously at Taliesin West. Where in the complex are you?
So for those of you that know the building well, I'm in the historic core and kind of on the south side, I guess, of the membership deck. So on the second level of the main building. And if I walk out to my right, I can look right over the prow and into Scottsdale. It's a magnificent view. But this is my office here. I'm here every day, and it gets pretty toasty when the days reach 120. These places weren't all designed for modern HVAC, but very, very special place.
I can imagine that being really motivating to get you to go into work in the morning.
But both in the morning and when you leave in the evening, because the place isn't just a building or the desert. I mean, one of the things that I think really was an evolution for me moving to Arizona 9 years ago now, is just how much life there is here. And when I walk out of my office every day, there's bunny rabbits or there's deer. There are rattlesnakes here. There's all kinds of critters. I drove by a coyote the other morning, just walking down the pathway up to Taliesin West. There's just life everywhere. And that's one of the shocking and wonderful things about the desert that I think Taliesin West kind of encapsulates.
We've definitely heard some stories about the rattlesnakes and the training that some of your staff have to deal with them on the property.
Yeah. Generally good to avoid them if possible. That's my layman's summary on that.
So we had a question about the plans for work on the south wing at Taliesin, and in particular, whether you yet have an idea when that might start.
That's a great question. I think it's going to depend a little bit on the mechanics of that grant from the state of Wisconsin. And of course, we are really working hand in glove with our partners at TPI. So I don't have a date for you right now, but I can tell you that it's certainly front of mind, along with work at Hillside Theater. I think, not to bury the lead here, that state of Wisconsin funding really will be the thing that helps kick off a lot of that preservation work. We have an obligation to make sure we really capitalize on that, try to get as much matching funding as possible. But once we have a little bit clear picture of how the grant will work and how we work best with TPI, we'll have some sort of update on that.
Well, fingers crossed it'll all come together pretty quickly. The Conservancy has been fielding a few questions about actually something that's happening in the wider world of World Heritage. Yeah. I thought I would just take a moment to comment on that.
That'd be great.
People may have seen in the news that the U.S. has announced that we are withdrawing in 2026 from UNESCO. So this country will no longer be a member of that organization. And as you know, you frequently see it referred to as the UNESCO World Heritage List. And there's a lot of overlap between UNESCO and World Heritage, but they are actually distinct. The United States has actually left and rejoined UNESCO multiple times since it was first created. And we wanted to clarify for people that the withdrawal that's planned for next year doesn't affect the World Heritage status of Frank Lloyd Wright or the 20th century architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright. So it will continue to carry that same, imprimatur of global significance. It does raise some concerns about how the U.S. kind of relates to its stewardship obligations for those sites in the long term, and making sure that they're interpreted and accessible to a global audience. But we are not going to stop working towards that goal. So just wanted to put people's minds at ease that, Frank Lloyd Wright is not getting yanked off the World Heritage List or anything like that.
No, I appreciate you raising that, and we're so grateful to the Conservancy for being such a great spokesperson for the value and impact and also what's happening in this moment in time.
Well, it's so important to us that Wright's contribution be recognized, not just, the 8 sites that are included in the inscription, but really we see it as recognition for Wright's full body of work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No matter which Wright site you visit, you can see the genius that led to the inscription.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
Well, our last question that we always like to close on for Wright Virtual Visits is, of course, please tell people how they can plan their visits to Taliesin and Taliesin West.
Yes, the place to go is the Frank Lloyd Wright, well, not the Frank Lloyd Wright, franklloydwright.org. It's on your screen there, and taliesinpreservation.org. Those are our partners in Spring Green. You can also find us on social media, both organizations.
Well, I definitely encourage people to plan their tours to Taliesin. Actually, there's a really unique event coming up a little bit towards the end of summer. I believe it's September 6th at Taliesin, co-organized by Wright in Wisconsin and Taliesin Preservation. There's a full day Taliesin experience that's being offered there that I encourage folks to check out. It's going to have the involvement of a number of experts and speakers, and really an unusual amount of access to a lot of different things to see there. So you can go to Taliesin late this summer, and then you can plan your Scottsdale visit for winter.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. This has been a great conversation, a great opportunity as we plan this to get to know you a little bit, and looking forward to meeting you in person in about a month and a half or so.
Sounds good. I can't wait. And again, thank you for the opportunity to connect with you and this community. And hopefully I'll get the chance not only to spend time with you, but the rest of the Conservancy, and looking forward to seeing everyone at the conference in September.
All right. Well, as we sign off, again, I just want to thank Joe for joining us, and I want to thank his colleagues for helping coordinate everything, in particular Henry Hendricks. And then, of course, another shout out to the Wright Virtual Visits team of Anna and Allison and Elisha, without whom this would not come together. And just encourage everybody, mark your calendars for October 2nd. We'll actually be doing a focus on the Marin County Civic Center. So that'll be something new for us.
Very exciting.
All right.
All right.
Well, have a great day, everyone.
Great. Thank you.